This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We have a great show, but it's also a very important show. There are things that are happening, and the president is being led into an impeachment proceeding by his own lawyers. Look, I like Jay Sekulow. He's a nice guy. He's a fine religious rights lawyer. You see him on Fox News. Same thing for Giuliani, former deputy attorney general, former mayor of New York, former U.S. attorney. But they're doing the wrong thing. And what they're doing right now in offering this to Mueller, that the president will testify to limited questions in exchange for having this investigation end on September 1st. Number one, president shouldn't testify at all. It's obviously a perjury trap. Number two, it's an offer that Mueller has to turn down. So what's going to happen is that Mueller will proceed ahead. He will issue an interim impeachment report, and that will, of course, influence the midterm elections. It will also influence the president being impeached if the Democrats win those elections. And more importantly, the president will wind up getting subpoenaed by Mueller. Mueller would love to subpoena the president. This will drag out the investigation for at least 2 years, all the way to the Supreme Court into the 2020 elections, and affect the president's chances of being reelected. You know, I told a story the other day on InfoWars and in other places that I was on, and we'll talk about InfoWars and other conservative media and how they're being discriminated against later. But the president seems to choose everyone. His world revolves around Fox News. And it reminds me of a story I was told by one of my close friends here in California when I'm in California, a family lawyer, that Larry King, who used to be on CNN, incredibly went to work for RT television, which is the Russian television. That Larry King used to have his staff meetings every morning. I used to see him there at Nate and Al in Beverly Hills. And of course, everything for Larry King revolved around Nate and Al. Well, it so happens that his seventh wife, he's had one more than Henry VIII. His seventh wife ran off with the gym instructor. So I asked my friend who was a family lawyer, I said, why isn't Larry divorcing her? Why doesn't he send her to the showers, in effect? And she said, well, his prenuptial agreement is so bad it'll ruin him. I said, well, why is that? He says, because he chose a lawyer at Nate and Al that he was having a bagel with. Well, now Larry has a bagel shop on Beverly Drive. I'm giving a little free advertising here. But the same thing with the president is that his world revolves around Fox News. And he chose Sekulow and he chose Giuliani. They're not right for this job because he sees them on TV and he watches all the time. What the president needs are strong, independent, anti-establishment lawyers who are willing to go the distance. Why have these lawyers been sitting around waiting for things to happen, seeing the president get dragged along to the guillotines? I mean, it's like the French Revolution. Mueller is out to destroy this president. Mueller is the product of the Democrat and Republican establishments that hate Trump. Look at some of the conservative commentators out there today. Jonah Goldberg, Ben Shapiro. They hate Trump. Now, they're trying to mask it now because they got to be able to stay in business. But these two-faced individuals that call themselves conservatives are not unique. There are a lot of people in the Republican Party that want to see this president taken down. So when you hear CNN and MSNBC saying, well, Mueller's a Republican, why would he do this unless there was a real case here? The reason is the establishment in Washington wants the president legally and actually dead because he's breaking up their money train. He's breaking up their power. He doesn't listen to them. They've been frozen out. The Karl Roves of the world would like to destroy the president, another person who appears on Fox News. I have no idea why that would happen. And what really irks me is that the president could have gone into court and asked for a decision early on as to whether or not Mueller had authority to do what he's doing. He's clearly exceeding his authority. We see that with the Manafort prosecution. It has nothing to do with alleged Russian collusion. Russian collusion is not a crime. There's no such thing as obstruction of justice. The president has the right to fire Comey or anybody else. In fact, he should be firing Sessions and Rosenstein, Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General, right now. Maybe he should also get rid of Wray, Christopher Wray at the FBI. They're all worthless. They're all part of this swamp. They're all part of this establishment. But he at least could have gone into court and gotten this all the way to the Supreme Court a lot sooner than now as to whether or not Mueller is behaving legally. Now, on September 4th, we're going to have a lot of documents come out. Generally speaking, I'm always talking about why documents don't always do it. The difference between Freedom Watch today and Judicial Watch when I ran it is that we do much more than just getting documents. Yeah, get the documents, but then use the documents to take out Mueller and to take out Hillary Clinton and to take out Bill Clinton, James Comey, Robert Mueller, the intelligence chiefs under Obama, and Obama himself, part of this deep state. So that's what we intend to do. And we will start our citizens' grand juries, and we will get them rolling. And we will start it on September 25th in Dallas, Texas, and we will indict. We will then convict. We will then sentence, and then we will seek to mete out the sentence through peaceful and legal citizens' arrest. In fact, before we even do that, we'll ask President Trump to enforce it. Now, he's got to take charge. He's got to get new lawyers, not lawyers inside Washington, not lawyers that love going on Fox News and pontificating and making themselves feel like they're important, but lawyers that are actually there in the trenches doing the job. We don't need more people out there who are doing it for themselves. We need to do it for the president, and the president's not being well served. Now, I want to talk about one other thing. The issue of Bruce Orr has come up this week. He was a high-level official of the U.S. Department of Justice. He and his wife, Nellie Orr, were collaborating. They were conspiring with regard to that dossier, that Steele dossier, the fusion scandal. And, of course, this is something which has resulted in Orr getting demoted. But now we find out that even after Christopher Steele was dismissed by the FBI and doing his dirty work, and the FBI paid for Steele's dossier along with Hillary Clinton, that has been used as a pretext to start this investigation against the president, now being conducted by special counsel Robert Mueller, that Orr continued to communicate with his wife and Steele over this entire matter. Now, let me tell you something about Bruce Orr, which hasn't come out. And I've been trying to get it out, but the media doesn't want to deal with it. Now, you hear things on Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman you're not going to hear elsewhere. I dealt with Bruce Orr back in the late 1990s, in the early 2000s. An individual came to me at Judicial Watch by the name of Peter Paul. Peter Paul had put on the Hollywood tribute to Bill Clinton. It was intended to raise money for Hillary Clinton's campaign. It raised about $2 million of hard money, which Hillary Clinton accepted. She was running for the U.S. Senate at the time. That was illegal. The maximum contribution at that time was about $2,000. That was it. It exceeded it by millions of dollars. It was criminal. And Peter Paul came to us with that information. I then took that information with Peter's permission to the Department of Justice. I went to the head of the criminal division, and I also went to Bruce Orr, who was running the crime task force for the criminal division at that time. Orr went to Brazil with me because Peter ultimately, rather than going after Clinton, the Justice Department, which was corrupt then as well, but of course not to the level it is today, but it was still corrupt, indicted Peter rather than going after Hillary Clinton. She was never touched. Well, Bruce Orr was the guy that was in charge of that, and he buried that investigation. I actually met in Brazil because when Peter was arrested, he was in Brazil, and he was in a Brazilian prison for several years. Well, here's the untold story about Bruce Orr, but there's also an untold story about Judicial Watch, is that I had agreed on behalf of Judicial Watch to defend Peter if he would come forward with the information about Hillary Clinton and her crimes and Bill Clinton's crimes. We had her dead to right. We had canceled checks. We had thank you notes. Thank you for this contribution to Hillary's campaign, which was illegal. And, of course, it was buried. Now, after I left Judicial Watch to run for the U.S. Senate in 2003 and 2004 in Florida, Judicial Watch abandoned Peter Paul. They did not honor the agreement. And Peter wound up doing many years in prison, almost 10 years in prison under house arrest, because they abandoned him. And that's why Tom Fitton doesn't want to talk about Bruce Ohr. You see him on TV talking about Bruce Ohr, but he won't mention the Peter Paul story because they abandoned Peter Paul. And frankly, what they did was just unethical and unbelievable to a client. I felt responsibility for that. I'll tell you something, and I tried to do something about it, get into it in another show. But I wasn't running Judicial Watch at the time. And that's why I take everything that you hear from Fitton with a grain of salt. He's not an honest person, and he's not somebody who actually does more than just get documents for the most part. Freedom Watch is what Judicial Watch used to be today. We have about 94,000 views on our YouTube explaining the difference. And that's why we need your support. We need your support for the grand juries, the citizens' grand juries, because we're actually doing something. We're going to take the documents and do something about it. I'm a lawyer of 41 years experience, a trial lawyer. I know how to get it done. And I'm frankly the only one out there that will get it done. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Join Freedom Watch's Justice League. Support our citizens' grand juries. We, the people, need to take matters into our own hands and send a message to President Trump. Get new independent lawyers. These guys are out there for themselves, for their own notoriety, and frankly, they don't know what they're doing. Jay Sekulow is a very fine religious rights lawyer, but he doesn't have a clue in the criminal sphere. And Rudy Giuliani is past his prime and says things that need to be retracted on an almost daily basis, sometimes even revealing attorney-client information. Frankly, his time has come and gone. President, new lawyers, not from Fox News, but from the best lawyers you can find outside of Washington. We're going to be right back with our second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman with our great friend and client, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, America's Sheriff.
Fearless.
He's claiming he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
You don't hear, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
We're back with my very good friend, my client, my hero, Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He's really a great man. He's taken a beating over the last few years, but he's like the Energizer bunny. Push him back, and he pushes back harder. And that's the way the president is. And that's why the president endorsed him when he was the sheriff. And that's also why the president gave him a pardon, which was really not necessary because he never did anything wrong in the first place. But it cleared everything out. Now he's running for the Senate in Arizona right now. And I've never really endorsed anybody before, only recently. And I do this personally, not as head of Freedom Watch. But I endorse Sheriff Joe Arpaio because he has the courage to do what needs to be done. There's nobody else who will be inside the U.S. Senate that will have that courage. Perhaps Judge Moore, if he had won, would have had that courage. But frankly, they're all a bunch of, I don't know how to call them right now, two-faced clowns up there. We need Sheriff Arpaio. So, Sheriff, I want to introduce you again to our listeners. And I can't stress more why they need to support you in running for the U.S. Senate in Arizona.
Well, thank you, Larry. It's my 8th campaign, first time statewide. All my others have been for sheriff. I did get through the Republican primary, was it 2 years ago, but I got messed up in the general, not because of my fault, because of all the pressure that they put on me, including the Department of Justice, Soros with his $3 million bucks, and so I had a tough race at that time. But here I am, back in action again.
Well, you're the Energizer bunny. Well, you even took on Sacha Baron Cohen. Tell us about that. That's you're not afraid of him either.
Well, I didn't know who he was, but that's okay. But at least I didn't throw the mic down and walk away. I stood with him the whole hour. Very strange. Never had an interview like that before. But I got through it, and unfortunately there was misunderstanding. You know how he plays his game with wording, and got me hooked in certain words that were very disgraceful words he was using. But you know what? I told him, I put the word out again yesterday. Why does he have some guts and stop being an undercover agent and come and meet me man to man, and we'll have a nice interview.
Tell us what you hope to accomplish as senator from Arizona, Sheriff.
Larry, the main reason I'm running because I was with Donald Trump when he ran way back in July of 2015. He had his first rally here, and nobody would stand next to him on a stage. I did. And at that time, I didn't even really know him. I got a note from him years before on another matter. That was the first time I met him, and I remember three things I said in my talk. One was that we're born on the same day, Flag Day, June 14. The other thing I said is he's going to win. There's a silent majority out there, and I guess I was right. And the other thing, of course, we talk about illegal immigration. That's the first time he brought that out, which was great because all the other candidates did not want to talk about it. So he made them, had them face the music and talk about illegal immigration. Probably nobody would have been talking about it if he didn't open the door. So that was good. And the silent majority, so that's it. They're out there for you. So, you know, I campaigned for him, opened up a lot of rallies for him, and he won. And I'm glad he won. If we didn't have him and had the other candidate, it would be in deep, deep, deep trouble.
By the grace of God, Sheriff, you know, I was on some show the other day, and someone made a smart-ass remark, excuse the language, excuse the French, that even if Jesus Christ was alive, he couldn't defend the president. Well, he is alive, obviously. He's our Lord. But I then said, well, by the grace of God and Jesus, we don't have Hillary. And I honestly believe that. We're going to come back with the second segment. We're going to take you over that second segment. I want you to tell more about what you hope to accomplish as senator. And we're also going to have Ryan Bundy, who's running for the governorship of Nevada. We'll be right back.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
Sheriff, we were talking about what you hope to accomplish as a U.S. Senator in Washington, D.C., and I pray that you will be the next senator from Arizona. Certainly a big improvement over what you've currently got with Jeff Flake and, of course, the other Flake, McCain. His name isn't Flake, but he is a flake, and that's the nicest thing you could say about him. So tell me more about what you want to do in Washington. Well, and I want to also say that Ryan Bundy, who's running for governor in Nevada, another great person, another person that I put my endorsement behind personally, is on the phone. So Ryan is listening to this, Sheriff.
Well, I didn't know he was running for governor. Is that in the general election?
Yes, it is. I am in the general election. I am on the ballot, and so I'm headed that direction.
Well, that's good. Give it a shot. I go back to Nevada many, many years ago when I was a cop, when they had the city. I was patrolled by the sheriff. But, yeah, I want to go do one term, 6 years, And I wouldn't be running, quite frankly, if the President Trump was not the president. So I'm really doing it to help him. I'm not a rubber stamp, but I will make sure that I work with him and help him on his agendas and policies, because it affects the state of Arizona, too. So that's one of the main reasons I'm running, is not to get even. I know how Mr. Bundy feels, and I've been through the same situation. And what's great about it, Mitch McConnell and all those swampers fear me. They're supporting my opponent, this McSally, which when they talk about the swamp, boy, I'll tell you, that really personifies that word, what they're doing to trying to get my opponent in as senator. So I have a lot of, I'm going to open a office at the border, so that would shake things up. When I get in there, I'd hope to be on the Judiciary Committee, which they won't appoint me, or the Intelligence Committee. With my 57 years in law enforcement around the world, I think I know what I will do on those committees. It's time to have a cop on the Senate, a real cop. Nothing against lawyers, Larry, but, they do have a lot of lawyers.
Well, I have a lot against lawyers, so that's okay. And judges.
But I have other, they call me a one-issue guy, yeah. So I spent 35 years as a top guy in Mexico and Latin America. And then, 24 years as sheriff, and I joined the Army when the Korean War broke out. But I have about 35 years as a top official on both sides of the border, so I think I know where the U.S.-Mexican border is. But once again, I want to do what I can for the veterans. The VA is still all screwed up. And maybe you'll like this and you'll agree with me, believe me. Maybe you can help out. Break up that Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I never win. So if we can at least break it up.
No conservative ever does, so you're not being discriminated against in that respect. No, it's a bizarre place. I mean, there are some honest judges there, but they're not the majority up there. And even the Bush appointees that are there, like this guy Bybee that I had to come up against with regard to the Bundy family, he's in many respects more problematic, more unethical than even some of the leftist ones appointed by Clinton and Obama. So it's unbelievable. And, of course, the president's trying to put more Trump-appointed judges on that bench. So perhaps that'll make things a little bit better. But, Sheriff, where can people go to support your campaign? Well, I have a web, www.sheriffjoeforamerica.com. And I'm not going to get into what they did to me, these biased courts and the Department of Justice. You know that whole story. And being, I think I got 2 parking tickets in my whole life, and then I had to sit on a defense table over a Mickey Mouse contempt of court misdemeanor. And, I was there watching, and I remember this Judge Snow, who reminds me of Judge Navarro that Ryan took on and actually beat in many ways. In fact, we're going to transition to that right now. I don't know if you can stay on the line, Sheriff, but I want to talk about what Ryan's doing, because Ryan is an extremely intelligent person. He's extremely brave, like his father, Cliven, like his brothers, Ammon and Davy and Mel. And they fought the law. I put the law in quotes because it wasn't the law. They were outlaws, and they won. Or you can even say how the West was won again. And, I admire this family so much, like I admire you, because you do what you think is right. So I want to turn this over to Ryan right now. He's running for the governor of Nevada. I endorse him as well. Ryan, tell us why you're running for governor.
Well, Well, there's several reasons, but the first and foremost is that I want to make sure that Nevada is recognized as a sovereign state. It is not a subdivision of Washington, D.C. And I believe that America has forgotten what the definition of a state is and forgotten that we are a nation, a country of several states. We are not one nation under God, as the Pledge of Allegiance states. That is a mischaracterization of what we are and what our founding fathers put up. What we are, however, is a union of several states, and that union is important. I'm glad to be a member of that union. But we still are sovereign, separate, and independent states in every regard except for those which we have come together and for common cause and purpose under the Constitution of the United States. And because we have forgotten who we are, we've forgotten that we have sovereignty within the state. We've allowed the federal government to overstep us, control us, minimize us to the point where slaves were captives, and that's got to be undone. And so, along with that comes the recognition of who the land actually belongs to, that it belongs to the people of the state, the land and the resources. They do not belong to the federal government. There is no constitutional provision for that to exist. I'm going to make certain that takes place. The other main important part of my campaign and purpose for running is this judicial reform. Like Sheriff Arpaio, we went through a court system that was unjust, that used unfair practices. Every one of our rights that's supposed to be protected by the Bill of Rights was violated, and we suffered greatly. And I witnessed others in that same situation. It's not just us. And that has got to be brought to a stop. Now, there's candidates that are running that have been in the political scene, and they're with the major parties, and a lot of people say, well, why didn't you run with the party, or why don't you just back one of them? Well, my problem with backing one of them is that I do not have confidence in them that they will protect the rights of the people. I do not have confidence in them that they will protect the right and the sovereignty of the state. And if Adam Laxalt is elected, or if Steve Sisolak is elected, then business as usual will continue, and the rights of the people will not be recognized or honored. Nevada will not be recognized as the state that it's supposed to be. I can't say that it is, because it's certainly not being recognized and treated as a state. It's being treated as a territory. And we're not a territory. Nevada was made a state in 1864, and it's never been properly recognized.
Well, it's unbelievable, because the federal government claims to own about 85% of the land in Nevada. It also makes a big claim in Utah, and believe it or not, even in California, 38% of the land. So just as a matter of logic, how can you be a state when the people don't own the land? And, we're in court right now, and we're challenging that. It'll probably wind up at the Supreme Court ultimately, but we're seeking a declaratory judgment that the land belongs to the people of Clark County, where you live, and to Nevada. That's very important, not just for Utah, not just for Nevada, but for Utah, Arizona. It spills over into Sheriff Arpaio State, and even California and other states in the West in particular. So that's a great fight that you're fighting. Now, I just wanted to get your comments on this, Ryan. This week, I filed a lawsuit for two of the defendants in the various prosecutions that occurred with regard to the successful standoff at Bunkerville, Steve Stewart and Rick Lavellian. And we're going against the prosecutors. We're seeking to hold them accountable for violating the constitutional rights of everyone in that case. Stephen Myre, Dan Sheese, Nadia Ahmed, others. We're going against the FBI, against the BLM. Even James Comey is in the case, because this was an outrage. And by the grace of God, and I know that you believed in him, the Heavenly Father, every step of the way, and he came through. we prevailed. But the fight's not over. And you have to teach these feds a lesson that they can't do this to American citizens. So I wanted to get your comment on that. This case was filed in district court in Washington, D.C. You can find it out on the internet right now or go to freedomwatchusa.org. Posted there. It's also posted on my private website, larryclayman.com. I filed this case in my private capacity. Ryan, I want to get your comments on that.
All right. Well, before I move into that, I want to just finish up with the definition of a state. The definition of a state can be found by observing the characteristics of the original 13 states, and so I would challenge anyone to find where the ownership of land was retained by, say, Great Britain after the Revolutionary War, or where, Congress or the United States, as a general government owns or claims land within the original 13 states. It's simply not there. And so as new states enter the Union, each one supposedly entering upon equal footing with the original 13 states, and therefore supposed to possess the same characteristics to be defined as a state, then 100% of the land ownership belongs to the people of that state and cannot be reserved by the federal government. And so back to the
Ryan, we have about 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure that you have
I'm going there. So
where they can support you. Okay.
Okay. I do want to comment on your lawsuit. Certainly, the prosecutors need to be held accountable. They have certainly breached the bounds and the rights and have oppressed these men. And so I wish you luck in that and to be able to obtain some justice for them. I know that we've been talking about a lawsuit with us in a similar nature, and I have chosen not to do the lawsuit at this time. I may change my mind depending on what happens in this race. But, I intend on holding them accountable through my position as governor. So I could use some support. So if people are willing to support me in this race, I am not like President Trump where I have large amounts of money to fund my own campaign. I do need some support in that manner. You're welcome to text to donate. You can text Bundy at 555-888. You can also go to my website, which is governorbundy.com, www.governorbundy.com. And you could also send money via mail to the address 361 Riverside Road in Mesquite, Nevada, zip code 89027.
I want to thank both Sheriff Arpaio and you, Ryan. You're both my heroes. I love you both. I love your family. Same for the sheriff. And I wish you Godspeed because we need people like you as public servants. I'm going to be right back. In the meantime, go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause as well, because we're fighting the deep state. We'll be right back.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Clayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
We're back with the verdict segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Clayman. Let me tell you what else we're doing here, because we're not just getting documents, like fitting in Judicial Watch. We're out there bringing hard-hitting cases, okay? We got a case against Antifa, or Antifa, however you want to pronounce it, these anarchists, fascists. They call everybody else fascists, but they are fascists, people who are attacking people in the streets in Oakland, California. That case is proceeding ahead. There are several defendants who have had to answer the complaint so far. Some are trying to dismiss. That's not going to happen. But we're holding them accountable because they attacked a young girl, a young gay woman, Kiara Robles, very fine person, who was just going to hear a conservative speak, Milo, who was then with Breitbart. So this is what we're doing. We're pushing back and we're sticking our neck out. And when I was in court a few weeks ago, 2 goons from Antifa came in, started drawing pictures of me like, we know who you are, Larry. We'll get to you. I'm not afraid. People in this country cannot be afraid if they want to save this country. And that goes as well for the president's lawyers. And that's why I say, time to say, you're fired, President Trump. Get other lawyers right now. Go on the offense. You're being backed up against a wall. You're on a slow road to impeachment. Actually, it's not going to be that slow. It's going to be very quick if the Democrats win control of the House. So we need to change the equation right now. And that's one of the reasons why Judicial Watch existed when I founded it, and now we have Freedom Watch at freedomwatchusa.org, because we need to take matters into our own hands. Now, Freedom Watch doesn't endorse candidates. I can't, as you heard. We're nonprofit. We are nonpartisan. And what we're seeking to do is bring about justice. We're seeking to restore this country to the vision of our founding fathers. So join Freedom Watch's Justice League at www.freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa.org. You are the superheroes. You are Superman. You are Batman. You are Wonder Woman. You are the Flash. You are Aquaman. You hold your own fate in your hands. And that's why we have our citizens' grand juries, because the citizens need to rise up. We need to do it ourselves. Enough of Fox News. I know I'm not trying to beat up on them, okay? I watch it too because I want to see what's going on. I watch Newsmax more. I watch other shows more. I even watch CNN, MSNBC because I want to find out what the vicious left is saying so I can counter it. But I'm sick and tired of the hype. I'm sick and tired of boosting ratings, increasing advertising dollars. I'm sick and tired of watching the same people on all the time who say the same things over and over again. Hannity's monologue doesn't change from night to night. What I'm interested in is not monologues. I'm interested in justice. And that's why I love Sheriff Joe Arpaio. That's why I love Ryan Bundy and his family. They're into that as well, you see? So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Join our Justice League, freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause. We need to get the resources because this is an expensive proposition, the citizens' grand juries. What's it going to entail? It's going to entail going out there and from voter rolls picking neutral grand juries where they're going to have to present evidence, so-called evidence to the grand jury. There's a lot out there. We don't need any more documents. We have enough to indict Hillary and Mueller and Comey and Obama and the rest of them right now. Let's get on with the show here, guys and gals. We need your help. And it's expensive. Then we're going to have a retired judge or someone who's independent try the case. We're going to have to pick a regular jury called a petit jury. That's going to be expensive. We're going to get convictions. I guarantee you that because there's so much evidence against these criminals. Then we sentence and then we enforce the sentence. And these people should all go to prison. Now, we're going to do it peacefully and legally, but I'm going to ask the president to enforce the convictions and the sentences once they arrive, and perhaps that will give him the cover to do it. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, support our cause, support a group that's actually trying to do something, not just trying to get documents to get on Fox News, not people that are out there just to scratch their own backs if you're politicians on Capitol Hill so they can raise money and get reelected. We are your Justice Department. You have none other. And, of course, the president needs to get new lawyers. I have a column that's appearing in worldnetdaily.com this week. Go off and read that. It's on our website. I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We will rise up. The American people will save this country, and we will return it to the vision of our great, godly inspired founding fathers. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless your country. And God save the country.